eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
Yes, they are. What the hell is going on, everyone? Thank you for being here. Apologies for being late. We are running on island time now. We're in Bali. So, in Bali, when someone says they're going to be there at 10, it could be 10:05, it could be 10:30. In fact, they might not even arrive at all. And that's just the way that it goes here. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you dealing with my few moments of lateness. It will happen from time to time. But we're here. And we have an exciting show today. So we are going to be digging into a few clips from Chris Ramsey's most recent podcast with Jeremy Weeks, military whistleblower, who has an absolutely wild story. And I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about this. Now, I kind of hope that most of you guys have actually already watched the podcast because the whole thing goes for 4 hours, okay? And we're not going to watch the whole 4 hours. I mean, I had to get through this in over multiple days. It's a big one, but there is a lot in it. And I'm hoping people have kind of seen it already because I want to know what you guys actually think about this because it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm still trying to work out how I feel. So hopefully at the end of this episode, we can kind of maybe come to a little bit of a consensus on where we're at about it. But there is lots of interesting things to get into. I think the biggest part of it is the channeled messages that this person has received. That's probably the main thing we're going to be looking at. But there are other things in there as well. There is even like a little mention on Project Looking Glass towards the end, which we'll look at as well, which is kind of relevant to the things that we've been covering on the show. But also some interesting similarities from this person's direct experience and encounter with a craft that kind of lines up with a lot of other people and things that we've heard. So that is kind of the premise of the show today. The full podcast is linked below. And if you haven't seen it and you're intrigued by what we look at today, I do highly encourage you to go over there and check that out. And I will just mention as well, like why this is interesting, if you don't know, is that this person actually came out about almost a decade ago, but under a false name and without revealing their face. So they came out with Linda Moulton Howe and she broke the story. And now it's kind of being retold with a little bit more information, with his name going public, with putting his face out there as well. So I just find that interesting because it kind of ties into the idea of things that we've spoken about over the last week, in that everything kind of seems to be, there seems to be a lot of things kind of converging right now. Okay, different angles, different stories are all seem to be coming out at once, and things seem to be happening at once, which I find to be really interesting. So just before we get over and start getting into some of those clips, we've got a few super chats here from Joanne Bro, celebrating 3 months as a member. Can't believe it's already been 3 months. Thanks for all the fun clips. My pleasure, Joe. And they've gifted 2 memberships. You are an absolute legend. Thank you very much, Joe. Shout out to you. Let's get some love in the chat for Joe. Beth, celebrating 5 months, says, "Woot, holy crap, I had something very scary last night working in the hospital. I'll tell you in Discord." Okay, I'll have to go and check that out, Beth. I hope you're okay. Golden Eagles, you little freak, and Reflecting, you absolute freak. Welcome to the Members Club, guys. I appreciate you both. And Kellatrix says, "Chin ups and smile, always weirdos." Thank you very much, Kellatrix. Love the positivity. Rain says, "I watched. It's rad. Enjoy." Thank you very much, Rain. Again, it is a banger. It is absolutely a banger. It might take you a little while to get through it all, but well worth the watch. Drucifer says, "Can't wait to listen in this morning." Thank you very much, bro. 420 Breezy, celebrating 5 months, says, "What's good? I've got Lemonade and P-Shaw has..." Oh, my brother. You always seem to get done in with the super chat, don't you? I appreciate you, bro. Shout out to P-Shaw the cat. And Bleak with $50. My man, didn't even leave a message. Just doing it for the love of the game. Thank you very much, Bleak, my brother. Appreciate you. Let's get some love in the chat for these guys. And let's head over to the Polarity TV. Now, actually, before we get into the first clip, before we do this first clip, I just want to show you this, okay? This is a little screenshot from the podcast, right? Because this person's story, as I said, it's not just about channeled messages, although that is kind of the thick of it. But this is kind of an illustration made from an encounter that this person had with beings, okay, that he kind of refers to as like a council. And obviously they look like greys. And there's a couple of interesting things in here, but namely the fact that there is this one at the back here who seems to have the black eye cover, lens cover, whatever you want to call it, removed from the eye in this illustration. And this is interesting because there are many people who have had encounters that claim that they don't actually have black eyes, that these are some kind of like protective film, almost like sunglasses, okay, something to protect their eyes. And that they actually have normal eyes underneath. Okay, we've heard this a lot. I just found it interesting because, again, what we looked at the other day is how similar it kind of looks to this. So we've got the new Disclosure Day poster here, where it kind of looks like it's depicting an alien, but with like a human eye, which is interesting. It looks kind of similar, but also to that 2002 crop circle that appeared with this message, which was also a message that was like a warning to humanity. And I believe in the clips that we look at today, Chris and Jeremy actually touch on this crop circle specifically in their discussion about the messages. But I just thought this was interesting and worth pulling in because, you know, we do like to kind of connect the dots that seem to be similar at the very least. What it means, who knows? Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's nothing, but it's still interesting nonetheless. Hoggy says, Josh, can we get a Suki update today, please? You know, it's funny you say that because I actually just got sent a bunch of videos yesterday, and I was thinking we're probably due to get some of those up on the stream. So I think while we're watching this first clip, I will prepare those videos and remind me at the end. You have to remind me at the end, and we'll get into some Suki clips for you guys as well. All right, let's kick it off. This is the first one. This is Jeremy kind of just speaking about the initial encounter that he had with the craft. And then this is basically like the triggering event for all of the communication and the messages and everything that kind of followed. This is kind of where it began.
As it got closer and, you know, as it had leveled off and come over slowly, I soon realized this is not anything that I recognize. I'm a little bit familiar with many different types of aircraft.
Yeah.
Different types of aircraft that most civilians don't recognize or understand.
So aircrafts that are not public, we'll
Correct.
say. We could say like
Correct.
some, you know,
Some classified stuff.
classified
But-
aircraft.
and we won't go into that.
Sure.
But you know, I'm familiar with a lot of different
It's
things.
not that, is what you're
It's
saying.
Not that. It is definitely not that. And that's what was throwing me off, is the symbology underneath it didn't compute with my brain with what this was, because this didn't seem like a symbology that we use, you know? And I didn't recognize it. And the odd thing is the light it was projecting was not attached. This was not attached to this object,
Mhm.
to this aerial phenomenon. This UAP was projecting light that wasn't attached to it. It was off. I want to say, you know, 4 to 5 feet away from the physical
Craft.
the physical
Body
vehicle.
of it, yeah.
the physical vehicle. It was detached and projecting light. And then on the backside, it wouldn't spark at all, but then occasionally as it was moving, it would just throw sparks like a static discharge off of the back end of it.
Well,
And I don't know if that was propulsion. I don't know if that was it was interfering with the environment, such as cloud or moisture in the air that was causing some of that discharge. It was just throwing me off that it wasn't attached as well. It was off of the object itself, or off of the vehicle itself, and it had when you're looking at the vehicle itself, it projected. It was like this field all around it that was like an oil slick on water. You know, like
swirling,
the pinks and the purples,
roiling,
and the blues.
right?
And it was
This is exactly what Dylan Borland explained seeing by the NASA hangar when he testified at the last UAP hearing, that there is this kind of outer plasma-like layer surrounding the craft. And it's also the same kind of, the way that he's explaining this like the texture and the way that it looks and the color is the same type of not material. I don't know how to explain it. The same type of like coating or color that Jonathan Weygandt describes being, I believe in his story, John, if you don't know, Jonathan Weygandt is another whistleblower who came forward about recovering a crash saucer in Peru in, I think, 1997. And I believe in his case, though, rather than being on the craft, it was like almost like a liquid that was on the ground around the craft or something like that. But I remember those same kind of details in that there is like this pearlescent color changing, something that really doesn't align with anything that we see regularly today. Is this live? No, this is pre-recorded, Lucas.
It was like some sort of plasma field that was just kind of swirling all around it, all over. You could tell it was like a silverish in color.
So you could tell it was a physical object.
You can tell it was a physical object,
but it had like an outer.
It had some
layer that was dynamic. That was
right.
Right.
It to me, it looked like it had some sort of field around it, some sort of protective field, or I couldn't tell you exactly
what color exactly. Was just like shimmering, multiple colors,
multiple different colors.
Wow.
And it didn't happen all over it all at once. It had spots where you can see the silver of the vehicle itself. So I knew it was like a metallic silverish aluminum type material, and you could tell it was consistent with the aluminum. No rivets. I did not see any seams.
It was dull.
I would say dull. Yes. It didn't shine. You couldn't see your reflection, kind of thing. It was just a silver. Like a aluminum,
like an oblong object too. Was this like a football shaped?
Football
almost.
Shaped.
Yeah.
Yeah. It had. I couldn't describe it precisely. The way that the shape it was similar to a football at one particular view of it.
Yeah.
And it had moved, and we saw that it was round. When it was coming down, you could tell it was round, and when it was leaving, you could tell it was round. But a lot of our perspective was
from the
like
side,
a football shape,
right?
And until it got overhead, and then you could tell it was oval,
circular, yeah,
right. And
it's interesting. A few people in the chat talking about plasma, saying plasma can basically do anything, and that's how the outer layer of this craft is described. At least that's the best thing he can relate it to. Interestingly, I found out this morning that a person from MIT who was like the director of a project looking into plasma and like cold fusion just got murdered, just got taken out, and there's no leads, there's no suspects, and was taken out like outside of his home in like a nice area, just randomly. And it really sounds like it reminds me of the 3-body problem. People who get too close to certain technology disappear. Kind of wild, right? This just happened, by the way. If you guys Google it, if you Google like MIT plasma director murder, you will see. It's kind of scary, to be honest, that this is still happening.
That's where I could see some of the symbology underneath, on the underneath side.
What would you compare those symbols to if you had to compare them today? Because there's a lot of symbols out there that have been witnessed by many experiencers. What would you compare it to?
I would compare them to most recently the sphere. There's a sphere that was I believe in Mexico.
The Boogosphere?
The Boogosphere. Some of the symbology was very, very similar to what I was seeing on the underneath side of this. So, but at that time, that didn't exist. So
yeah,
I just did the best I could to represent the symbology that I had seen. And to me, I pictured it as only lasting, a few minutes of viewing this.
Yeah.
He's a decent artist. I have to say that as well. And I don't mean that in a sus way. He's actually quite a good drawer, to be honest. And like the way he's drawn the outer layer of this craft is like, I couldn't picture a better way to like 2D illustrate plasma. With the way that he's sort of like outlined it and shaded it, he's actually given like a really good depiction of kind of like how I imagine this thing. And also these symbols underneath are quite interesting as well. We've seen similar things in many, many cases. Dan Garden says, I have a theory about the murder of the plasma director. I think his death was staged so that he can work in black programs without scrutiny, potentially in a self-sufficient dumb. Dan, you little tinfoil hatter. What are you basing that on? I like it. I'm here for it. But where is that coming from? I'm here for it, though. Go off. A few people think it's sus. I mean, I think it's very sus, right? It seems very... I mean, maybe Dan is right, and maybe he is right, but I think that still falls in the sus category, right? That's still absolutely in the sus category. Me personally, I think it is someone getting too close to things that we... like outer district, lower level worker class humans are not allowed to be touching. And I'm curious if he or anyone in his circle were warned to not go near that sort of research before this happened. I would like to know if there's anything there. Ethan Swizz says, can't wait for the Bonnie Blue collab. Love you, Josh. I will not become a victim of the Russian bioweapon that has been released on the West. Thank you very much, Ethan.
Of viewing this.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was just trying to identify it. I did everything I could to try to identify it.
Yeah.
And to no avail. This is nothing that we have. This is nothing that exists.
What color was the light that was being emitted?
It was a bright white. I mean,
bright white.
It had literally no color to it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Blinding bright white.
Just as white as white can get.
Interesting. White as white can get. So many threads in that we hear recurring through so many like experiences, right? As we're watching these clips, I want you guys to, start to do a little bit of your own analysis. And at the end of the day, everyone's very different. We don't know Jeremy, okay? But all we can do is kind of work with what we've got in terms of like, analyzing his story, the way that he speaks about it. And I'm curious to hear what your read is on this guy, because I find his story compelling. And like I said, there are many, many sort of similarities to lots of other cases. But I also do struggle, like, I do wonder, like, why is it often like these military guys that are saying this stuff? Now, I don't necessarily think that, when I say that, I don't necessarily think that it's like military infiltrating the podcast circuit to try and psyop us. I actually think what is just as possible is that these guys are being manipulated themselves, that they are also a victim of some kind of like MK Ultra-esque experience that gets twisted into thinking it's aliens, right? I'm not saying that's what I think, but it is on the table as a possibility for me. Okay, but I want to know what you guys think, and I don't want to sway your thoughts or decisions. I am just genuinely curious. So let's get into the next clip. This is where they start to talk about the binary messaging and the automatic writing that started to happen after this experience, and the first message that he received.
Were you familiar with binary at any point of your life? Were you weren't working in computer science or anything? You weren't part of anybody who would be familiar to that extent with binary code for any reason whatsoever?
No. Our military computers are completely different. They don't operate on binary.
Yeah.
So I was really unfamiliar with binary, and I didn't understand what binary was until later on when it was brought up to me by Dr. Horace Drew.
Yeah, and that binary, and we'll get into that in a second once we talk about some more of the transmissions that happen. But that binary is special because it's not standard binary.
Right.
And so that's what makes this even more novel and strange, is the fact that you had seemingly invented a new form of binary.
That's wild. Yes. He found that and my, I'm sure you have some images we can pull up and
Yep.
show people. Some of these are empty boxes, and some of them are solid boxes, are filled in.
Yep.
And then we had some thicker lines and some thinner or thin lines
Yep.
that were in some of my dreams that I was writing down. And I also realized that when I was having these, they began to evolve over time. So the first time that I was in that hotel on our way to Colorado Springs, they were moving fast. So in order for me to keep up, I was just doing the boxes and lines as quickly as possible as I was seeing them. And in my mind's eye, things were a little bit darker all around, but they were appearing as like this blue color.
So you remember this happening? You remember seeing this?
I remember seeing it later on. And so it took a few days for me to have a dream or some more sleep time where I'm remembering, and then the next day I'm waking up and say, okay, I remember seeing some blue boxes and lines coming across my face.
Like this, just kind of like reading.
Like everything's just not black, but everything's darker around me where I could still see that I'm in a room and objects in that room, they're just darker, and these blue boxes and lines are coming by my face. So the first time they happened, they were coming fast. It was difficult for me to keep up. I couldn't shade them all in or make them thicker. It was just get the boxes and lines down. And so that's what I did the first time.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear someone actually explain and kind of like paint a picture of what it's like to have something like this come to you and happen to you, and that he's essentially saying, at least how I interpret this, is that he's having like visions. Like he can still see the room, but like almost like overlaid in some kind of like other plane. He's seeing this sequence of like boxes. And what's even crazier about this is apparently, like he said, this isn't just regular binary. This isn't just binary, not even non-binary. We've got another one. It's super binary, where there is binary within the binary. This is the pimp my ride of binary code. Your binary's got binary, where it's not just about like the zeros and ones. It's squares, and some of them are colored in, some of them are blank. Some of them have thicker lines, some of them have thinner lines, and so within each symbol, there is like 3 layers to it. So when they have like a paragraph of text, it's essentially 3 paragraphs worth of text, and each one can be decoded individually to create a message. And apparently this guy has absolutely no concept of binary before this happened. Before this happened, he wasn't even aware what binary was, which is, again, another crazy part of this. Zach Beach with $50 says, there's just something about him I don't trust. His story is very believable and I can't put my finger on it, but there's something weird about him. First of all, Zach, thank you very much for the generous super chat, brother. You are a legend, always supporting. I appreciate you. And honestly, I have to agree with what you've said. I feel the same way. I've watched the entire 4 hours, and there is nothing necessarily... I mean, look, obviously there are parts of the story that are very far-fetched, and I don't mean that in a sense of like they're too much to believe, because at the end of the day, like, you know, how can we draw this line? If we're going to step into this realm and open our mind up to these possibilities, I think it's strange when people suddenly draw a line and say, oh, well, that's too far. You know what I mean? Like, this is all crazy. Like, let's be real. But it doesn't mean it's not true. But I do agree that there is something that doesn't feel right. But I don't know if that's just me being like paranoid, me being like having like a prejudice that's a bit suspect on people who are coming from military backgrounds. Or perhaps just the way that again, like, we don't know this person. We've never met him. We've never hung out with him. We don't know what he's really like. So I always feel like judging someone just from a podcast, you're only getting this kind of like presented version of them. Not that I think it's edited or like twisted in a way at all, but maybe the way he's speaking, he's very quiet, just sort of like calm, collected, a little bit nonchalant about what he's saying. Maybe that's just the way that he is. Maybe you have to be that way when you're in the military. But when we are talking about these kind of crazy topics, sometimes that nonchalantness can kind of come across a little bit suspect, I think. I don't know. It is I mean, trust me, I'm open to it, but there is that little bit in me that's like, I don't know. I don't know. And Zach Beach also gifted 10 memberships. Zach, you are the GOAT, sir. Thank you very much. Let's get some love in the chat for Zach and the 10 new freaks who just gained clearance to our members section. Enjoy the members only content.
The ones after had slowed down enough where I could fill in the dark boxes and leave the light boxes, and I had more time to actually put them down. It was simple. I could look anywhere. I didn't have to look in front of me or anything. I could look directly at the paper, and they're happening right in my peripherals from right to left, just moving slow. And so I'm able to do the boxes and lines nice and simple, easier that way. Now,
someone says he's holding something back. I don't know about that, but it is interesting. Like, and that there might be just a normal explanation to this, and it may just be coincidence number 3,667. But I do wonder, given that he came out 8 years ago, 10 years ago, under a pseudonym with his face hidden, why now? What happened now that's changed that made you want to kind of come out again with your face and with your name? Like what changed? That's what I want to know.
Over time, they began to morph into lowercase letters and capital letters, and then eventually into more or less like just verbal messages, in my head.
Before we get to the verbal messages,
right?
Let's take this one step at a time, because this is
absolutely,
there is a lot of information here. So first off, the subsequent messages after the first one, how far apart were those? I see here we have October, we've got November again, November, then December. So this is happening really frequently at this point.
Absolutely.
How frequent after that late June encounter up until November? How many transmissions do you estimate you've had? A couple per month?
I would say maybe 3 or 4 in a month at times.
Mm-hmm.
Other times, maybe just 1 a month or none.
Yeah.
And then the following month, 2 or 3, there was no pattern.
Okay.
And that's one thing I was trying to notice is there a pattern? There was never.
Is it something
really
I ate? Is it, yeah.
And I'm not taking credit for this at all, because she's beautiful. She's amazing. Linda Moulton Howe, I had spoken with, shortly after MUFON. And she indicated that this is important, because I told her I had some messages that I hadn't been writing down. She indicated that it's probably very important, and I need to have a journal next to me so that I'm able to write these things down. And so she's the one that she's the brilliant mind behind, I need to write these things down when they happen, date them, and keep a record.
Good for her.
So it's great on her.
Yeah.
I mean, that she helped me with that. And she deserves all the credit for that, because that was an amazing idea. I would have never thought of that. And so that's what I started to do. I started writing these things down when they happened.
And to also, to Linda's credit, she was the one who discovered Jim Peniston's binary code. The Rendlesham Forest incident in England, 1980, where U.S. Air Force officer Jim Peniston said he walked up to a landed craft covered in strange symbols and then lost time. Years later, it was Linda Moulton Howe who took a closer look at the notes Peniston had been carrying around in his old notebook and realized that what looked like nonsense was actually 16 pages of structured binary that could be decoded into English. Now, both of these read cold and technical, like instructions instead of sort of conversational English, and they had very similar wording, including the words humanity, continuous, protection and protect, advance and advancement, coordinates, monitor, monitoring, warning, warn, beware. Also the words origin, transmission, message, planetary, survival. All of these words overlap within these two cases. And in both cases, the crafts were described as featuring sharp geometric symbols. And some of these symbols, as you can see here, are almost identical.
And just in case you sort of maybe didn't follow that, when he's saying they're identical, he's talking about to the Rendlesham Forest craft. So the ones on the bottom there were drawn based on what was seen in the Rendlesham Forest case, which was like 1980. And then the top illustration is from Jeremy and his encounter. And again, there are many other cases where people have spoken about seeing like some form of like hieroglyph type, not non-English characters on these craft, which is interesting, right? What does that mean? Rain just said, hey, Josh, not being negative, but people don't realize how easily others can be silenced. That's why there's no disclosure. Even US presidents back off. It's dark for a reason. Yeah, dude, I mean, I don't think that's being, I mean, it's not being negative. I think it's just being real. Like, I think if you look into this stuff, you see that there is a trend of that, of people attempting to look into this stuff, or people getting too close, and then people backing out of it pretty quickly. And that's happened for a long time. It makes you wonder why. It makes you wonder what the truth, like, it makes you realize that the truth probably is quite dark. Sorry, we just missed one more. Toxic Fart says, I love how aliens always pass on messages to people who have no power to change things, or to people who don't do shit A-tub streams. I'm not sure what you meant at the end there, brother, but thank you very much. And I agree with you. Although, again, there's just been so much content rolling out. American Alchemy just did a interview with the president of, oh my God, what is it called? Kalmykia? I'm pretty sure it's Kalmykia, which is like a sort of like a sub-region of Russia, I guess you could say, who did apparently get taken up onto a craft and have messages come from a non-human intelligence. And that, I mean, that is a president. Again, it's a sub-region of Russia, doesn't have much of a direct effect on the West. But maybe when we get into some more of these messages, in fact, we can get into the first one now, that might kind of have some kind of, weight into what some of these messages say as to why it seems to never really have a big impact on the West. Maybe because the West is, I don't want to say the bad guy, but maybe we're not as good as we think. Toxic Fart says hot tub stream. Oh, look, I don't know who would that be. I don't know who's meant to be doing a hot tub stream. I've never heard of him. Okay, this is the first message that Jeremy received. Now, so just to remember and clarify, he is receiving these through automatic writing, and he is just writing down what he is compelled to write, and that is a sequence of squares that translate, okay? Jeremy was not the one who translated these messages. These have been translated by a third party. Now, Jeremy trusts and, has faith in this third party, but I think it's worth noting that at the end of the day, it's a third party. It's someone else. So now we have like a whole other layer of someone who, who are they? What are their intentions? Who are they connected to? Do you know what I mean? Like once you start adding in another layer to this, you sort of almost like double the complexity, you double the potential for there to be bad actors. And I'm not saying that is the case, but I just think it's worth noting that Jeremy didn't translate this. Okay. This is what he's being told that it says. Continuous protection of humanity. And then they give coordinates. Expose hidden knowledge to all citizens. Advancement imperative for planetary survival. Beware of Orion and Zeta Reticuli. Avoid messages sent. Now, the first set of coordinates there, interestingly, go to Nuremberg in Germany, which is where this happened. The famous celestial phenomenon, which was in like 1533, I'm going to guess. That was a guess, but it's somewhere around there. This is, and I've covered this on the channel before, but this is basically a famous encounter. I probably wouldn't call it an encounter, sighting of what seemed like a battle in the skies. And there was what apparently was a war between all different shapes and sizes of different, I guess, craft. And I kind of hesitate to use the word craft because the shapes that are explained are generally not what we would sort of like, the way we would describe a craft. Most of them were like orbs. Then you've also got these things that were in the actual account described as long reeds of grass, I believe it was described as. But interestingly, apparently after this happened, after this sort of battle took place, then this giant black craft appeared, which was described as being like the tip of a spear or something like that. Now, in the way it's depicted there, I never kind of made this connection, but actually in Chris's podcast, he uses like some B-roll footage, and I don't know where the footage is from. It's probably just some kind of stock footage, but it made me realize that is kind of like what looks like the what's it called, like the Star Destroyer. I don't know. I'm not good with Star Wars names, but the main Darth Vader ship, not the Death Star, but like it is the Star Destroyer. Yeah, it's like a long triangular ship that looks like an arrow tip, and I kind of never really made that connection. I was like, that is kind of interesting because apparently this craft, this black triangular one, appeared at the very end, almost like it arrives to kind of move into the ground that's just been conquered is the best way I can explain it. But again, I could just be fabricating my own version of events there based on what I know. But that's the way it was told. Anyway, Aaron Clark, thank you very much for the gifted membership, sir. You are a legend. All right, let's get into the next clip. This is second message and also a bit of talk about the crop circle as well.
Now we get into the second message. Now, let me pull this up here. I'm going to get back here to where I was. The second message, October. This is October to January 2016. Now, there are multiple messages here that combine to make this.
Right.
And I'm just going to go ahead and read the first message, not the decoded versions, because there are, again, sub-messages within the messages.
Right.
This is where, oh, by the way, before I actually get to this, Dr. Drew pointed out something really, really fascinating with the crop circles.
Oh, yes.
Right. So, and this relates mostly to that first message. If we look at specifically, there is a crop circle. There are a few crop circles, but there was the well-known Arecibo reply. So in 2001, a crop formation appeared inside the Chilbolton Observatory that many believe mirrors a reply to the 1974 Arecibo radio message. The symbolic signal designed by Frank Drake with help of Carl Sagan and Linda Saltzman-Sagan and transmitted from the Arecibo Observatory. That original signal described basic human biology, DNA, and our location in the solar system, and the Chilbolton formation appeared to mimic the same digital structure, but obviously with some key differences, including biology and where they were located in their star system. 1 year later in 2002, another unsettling formation appeared at Crabwood, showing the face of what many described as a gray alien beside a disk of spiral binary, revealing the warning, "Beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Much pain, but still time. Believe. There is good out there. We oppose deception. Conduit closing." Then in 2015, a massive binary-style formation appeared again near Turin, echoing the same warning.
By the way, can we just get a quick general consensus on like real or fake on that crop? Not this one, the one we just looked at with the alien head and the circular binary message. That's a wild crop circle, right? Like not just the design, but like the message that it has and the time that it came in 2002. Absolutely insane, I think. I think real.
Style layout and reinforcing the pattern people had already noticed, along with the Latin phrase, timeo et ferentes. I fear those who bear gifts. So in 2002, there's this message that pops up with this beautiful work of art of what seems to be like a gray alien.
3 dimensions.
Yeah, and it has a pupil.
Right.
So many people saying real. We are all in so deep. We are in so deep, my God.
Right, which normally you don't see. And we'll get to that in a second.
Right.
Which I found very interesting. You then have this massive circle that has all these dots that seems to be some type of encoded message. And then you have these 3 sort of lights that kind of represent Orion's belt, which, again, for many reasons, very fascinating. And the message translates to, beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. And it shows the Orion constellation, and it shows these sort of grays or whatever. And now we have your message, which says, beware of Orion. Now, there's two things here that say beware, and they're both picturing Orion. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's...
It could be coincidence number 4,306, but maybe not. Maybe Chris is right.
That's what's so confusing for me, is there's so many similarities with so many different things that they require more in-depth look.
Yeah.
And so that's where I get intrigued, is how so many different things line up with others. It really throws you back.
It lines up with what Bob Lazar was talking about too, with, when he was briefed in those documents, it said that the craft and the beings, the kids, as he refers to them as, were from Zeta Reticuli.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the next message here reads as follows: imminent threat soon upon Earth's leaders and civilizations, right? There's a bit of a
deviation there.
Yeah, deviation. We can assume it's civilizations. Expose and disband hidden knowledge to all citizens. Once again, employ safe and controlled joint study to all minds. Progression imperative for combined survival. So in this particular text, one word that stands out to me right up top is the word imminent. Now, where have we heard that before?
Right.
Lou Elizondo's.
Lou Elizondo, yes.
Do you think that title is a reference to this in some way?
Elizondo's an alien confirmed. He's working with him.
Sure. I mean, it's one word. I'm sure it's been used many times by others. I don't know if it came to him.
Do you think Lou was aware of this?
I'm not sure if he was. That I don't know. I worked with Linda pretty exclusively for quite a while. So, I mean, there's a possibility that he may have known about it, or he may not have. I really don't. Really don't know. I mean, it's just one word.
True.
But it's impactful. That's another similarity. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit curious, but one's only to assume.
Yeah, and then again, expose and disband hidden knowledge to all citizens. Again, all citizens. Right. Expose hidden knowledge. And this time they put disband in there as well.
Expose, disband.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I think about that, I have a military mind, and we don't want to put out weapon systems to all citizens, because we don't.
That's not what the message said, Jeremy. It said all. You don't get to pick and choose, Jeremy. That's what the message said. Maybe, and I've said this a long time ago, maybe the military isn't the best group of people to be representing humans for first contact. Maybe the people who are trained to be paranoid that everything is a threat isn't our best ambassador. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It's just a thought. I don't know.
Want all civilians building weapon systems in their garages and creating chaos. And there's many incidents where somebody's mind just snaps and they want to shoot up a mall or school or something. So yeah, I believe there needs to be some restraint on some things.
That's not what the message said though, Jeremy. Listen to the message. Rain says, what if the truth is so dark and horrible and that's why they refuse to tell us the truth? Who the hell are they to tell me what I can and can't handle? Look, I think, look, this is just my opinion, okay? I think the truth about some of reality, like the Western way of life, I feel like has been sort of infiltrated and compromised by something that is dark, okay? I can't prove this and I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. This is just how I feel. And I feel like that truth is quite dark. Do I think our existence on this planet, like remove society, like remove like the structure of society, but like human existence, humans having life on this planet, do I think that that is like inherently dark? No, not at all. I think like life is beautiful, the world is beautiful, people can be beautiful, but I feel like something dark has sort of like compromised and infiltrated Western society. And when I say Western, that's not because I have like a chip on my shoulder about the West. It's just all I know, right? That's where I'm from. That's where I was born into. And from going down this rabbit hole and kind of looking at what we know about history, looking at the way the world is and the cycles that seem to repeat, the war machine that just seems to keep on turning, that we always seem to conveniently find a new enemy for, the way that we feel compelled to infiltrate other countries and give them democracy and freedom that they so desperately wanted and needed. That to me, after a while, it's kind of like, I don't think we should be doing that. I actually don't think this is the right way to go about things. So I think the truth is kind of dark, but I think it's on our side. There is something dark that's happened to our side. I don't think it applies to like humanity on a fundamental level, if that makes sense. So I think there is a little bit of a saving grace in there. John Joe, celebrating 2 months as a member, says, when you watch the ending, CJ seems to imply that he wants to monetize his story and looking for ideas. Possibly. And, you know, that's obviously like a red flag for a lot of people. And I get that. But I also think it's important to realize that, like, you know, whenever someone says like, oh, buy my book, so many people just like flip their table upside down and they're like, oh, there we go. He's selling a book. Just because someone puts something in a book doesn't mean it isn't true. And I think that's important to remember as well. Benjamin Dickens says, hi, mate. There were the Orion Wars like humanity there. Hi, mate. There were the Orion Wars like humanity. There is both benevolent and malevolent. Look into the ECETI and Peter Maxwell's Slattery ECETI Australia. Have a bintang on me, brother. Thank you very much for the bintang. I probably had enough last night, but I'll save that for the next for the weekend. Thank you very much, Ben. And I would agree. I do feel like anything, that there is good and bad, because that is the polarity, isn't it? Thank you very much, brother. Did we finish off this clip? We did. Yeah, we did. We can get into the next one now. So actually, look, let me pull this up. We'll just look at this quickly. It's interesting. So this is the message that we just got read out. This is the second message. So imminent threat upon Earth's leaders and civilizations. Expose and disband hidden knowledge to all citizens. That's all of them. Employ safe and controlled joint study to all minds. Progression imperative for combined survival. That last line is pretty creepy. Because I mean, if this is getting sent through as a message, it implies that we are not progressing. It implies that that progression that is imperative for survival is not happening, or it's not happening at the rate that it needs to happen. And interestingly, I think like in the sub layers of binary, they pull out the word Eisenhower and 1952, which is sort of like around the time that he allegedly had a meeting with some form of non-human intelligence and maybe struck a deal, maybe a deal that he felt compelled to make. I mean, if you were approached by something that is displaying technology that is like beyond your comprehension, and I feel like you would probably feel somewhat like not compelled, but like, I mean, what's going to happen if I say no, right? And then maybe over time we've realized that what was pitched as a great deal for us was actually not a great deal at all. And maybe we feel like our hands are tied now. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But it is interesting, the fact that we got Eisenhower in there. Okay. This part's interesting, okay? Because we sort of start getting into the realm now of like, is this some kind of message from us in the future? Okay, it kind of touches on the extratempestrial model, the fact that what we might be seeing here is potentially future humans warning us, okay? And this kind of touches on, I guess, the block universe theory, at that the past and the present, it all is existing at once, and we are kind of just only able to perceive sort of our current moment because we are three-dimensional beings. Let's hit play on that one.
And finally, for this bit of transmission, because there are many more,
There are several.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
We'll get into a few of them.
Right.
But right now, to end this one, it says Royal Emerther warning, Emerther in capital. Expose foreign technology to all evolutionary advancement needed to prevent takeover. Expose foreign technology to all evolutionary advancement needed to prevent takeover.
Right.
I mean,
You don't have a book coming out, do you, Josh? No, but if I do, it'll be a grass touching guide. It will be how everyone can improve their life by touching some grass and just being a kind human.
okay, first of all, Emerthers seem to be the race here that we're dealing with. Royal Emerther warning.
Emerther is confusing me because I've never heard of this before, and I had to do a lot of Google researching to see what I can come up with what Emerther means. And the only thing that I was able to find out, and this was with the help of Linda, was like at some point in our past, we had met with some sort of an Emerther, some sort of alien species that referred to themselves as Emerther. What royal means, I'm not sure, because if they're an advanced alien species, I think the times of royalness would have been way in the past. Like they've advanced way beyond that. We still have royal families, that are living on different countries and such. So yeah, we still have those aspects of things.
You think that would be done away with?
You think that would be gone, but
but also
this perceives, or maybe the royal was like some sort of symbology or meaning that it should be taken more seriously. Like maybe this is a metaphor for something more serious.
Yeah,
to taking like higher ups within the
royally important
of importance. Of this particular species. Group.
Yeah.
Or how they determine things, or maybe leaders. Within their
yeah, maybe it's just how they refer to
species. Yeah.
But we do still use the term majestic, which is very close to royalty. Her Majesty.
Right.
And so that's still.
I think there's a lot of symbology.
There is
a lot
some
of that,
type of like
I mean?
tie-in to this. Yeah, and then so I mean that is very enigmatic to say the least. Now I'd like to get into we're gonna segue. Yeah, from
Sorry, I think Chris I was sort of busy reading the chat, but I think Chris just mentioned in that section where they were talking about royal family, he says something like, I can't imagine that, aliens would still be living with like a, what is it called, a patriarchy? Like a structure of like having royal families and things like that, that it's like a primitive thing that humans are still kind of like barely holding on to. And we've almost kind of evolved out of that. What if, and here we go, monarchy. That's right. Thank you. Here we go. Strap your tinfoil hat on for this. What if a monarchy is inherently an alien thing? Do you see where I'm going with that? And is that why we have people saying the Queen is a lizard? Is that why we have people saying, I've seen these people in the highest levels of the royal family, in the government, shapeshift? I don't know. I'm just spitballing based on things here. But hey, is that why Prince Andrew was on Epstein Island? I don't know. I didn't put him there. I'm just reporting the facts. People. Do not get mad at me.
From this little ditty here and all of these incredible messages that were deciphered that, you had simply doodled on a paper, followed by WTF. And then they got deciphered into this incredible message here that, if it has any significance, is extremely concerning, if not just for a wake-up call. but can be, I mean, it said the last paragraph says evolutionary advancement needed to prevent takeover.
Right.
What are we talking about here? What's your sense on that?
Yeah, that would be a little scary to me because we'd like to live our lives comfortably and go to work, come home, spend time with our family. So
that would be nice. That would be nice.
Anything that involves any kind of takeover, that's a warning to me. I take that as a warning some type of way. And I don't want to be taken over. I don't think anyone would want to be taken over. So yeah, I perceive that as a warning in some fashion.
And that we're kind of working with them is what I get from this too. Like that at least one group here that seems to be like, hey, we need your help.
Right.
Because otherwise, why even tell us about it, right? They're probably trying to recruit us for something or be like, hey, wake up. We need to like come together and like, we need you guys to hurry up and evolve.
Absolutely.
So you can help us out with this imminent threat soon upon Earth's leaders and civilizations.
Right.
So obviously with the whole, like, all technology should be shared with all of humanity, all of these messages, like I'm sure everyone agrees with, right? But I can't help but wonder, if there is this like military angle that is like there is a threat coming, there is a, what are these aerial threats in our sky? We need to fund the military, we need to prepare, all of this kind of stuff that feels like exactly the kind of things that Dr. Carol Rosen spoke about, which was that after the Soviets, after the communists, after terrorism, they're going to use a non-human threat as the next enemy to continue the war machine turning, right? That's like, we know this. So when it starts to get into this territory, I can't help but wonder, like, and again, I'm not even saying that like Jeremy is directly part of this and he's like being dishonest on this podcast. That's not, I don't even really feel that. But again, I feel like the people in the military themselves could potentially be brainwashed to plant seeds. Because remember, he came out without his face and without his name nearly a decade ago with this story. And it makes me wonder, like, are these just little seeds being planted because they know the plan? If Carol Rosen knew the plan, okay, I'm sure they would know the plan. If they know the plan, it would make sense to begin planting little seeds, just those little bits in people's mind, a decade, 2 decades prior to the fact, to just, begin developing the plan that you've known about for many, many years. Again, I'm not saying that is the case, but these are the things that cross my mind when it starts to get into this fear-based narrative. But it doesn't mean it's true. But I just think it's worth considering 100%. There was a comment here that I wanted to touch on. And it's gone. There was a comment and it's gone. We'll keep playing. If I find it, I'll grab it.
So, I consider myself a deep thinker. I look at things from many different angles. And when I do that and I look at history, there's a lot of indications. There's a lot of indications that this has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. I mean, I believe it was going on with the Egyptians, ancient Egypt. I believe it was going on in Easter Island. I believe it's been going on in Peru. And there's several different locations all across our planet that point out and indicate some advanced technology, some advanced proof that they've been associated with us throughout time. So I do believe that not only do we have several different species that have been interacting with us throughout all of history, I also believe that as some of these cases, some of these things that have been happening could be, in fact, future versions of ourselves, visiting ourselves, from...
What gives you that impression?
Here we go.
What gives me that impression is that I don't have any proof of
any concrete evidence, but just
I don't have any concrete evidence. It's just some of the things that I've read and seen online just indicate more or less that we are maybe in the future we developed a version of time travel and we visited our ancient selves, which would be us right now, and to try to help guide us into a better future,
in some way. Yeah.
And some.
I think he's cooking here. I find this stuff absolutely fascinating. I think, and like more and more people seem to be openly talking about the fact that like time travel is real. I think even I was speaking to Reese this morning, and he mentioned that even Harold Malmgren said this at the end of his conversation with Jesse Michaels, that this whole time travel aspect is real. But I feel like when we say time travel, I mean, look, I could be projecting here, but I feel like when I say time travel, at least normally, I think of like, humans getting into a little ship and it going zzz, and then all of a sudden they're back 100 years. Like I have this very like comical, like Doctor Who silly version of time travel, but like I don't necessarily think it works that way. It may be more like something that is far more like non-physical, some kind of like quantum entanglement type thing that happens, and that these messages, I mean, like I said, if the block universe theory is correct and all points in time are kind of coexisting, past and present at the same time, then that does help it sort of make a little bit more sense in my mind.
Fashion. So, I mean, I would not put that past that we are sometimes seeing future versions of ourselves mixed in with all these different other alien species.
That makes sense.
So
there's, we talked about this over dinner a little bit yesterday, but like
Yeah, Interstellar. We watched Interstellar the other night in Discord, and I think a lot of people finished that movie and we were all just like mind blown. A fantastic movie, potentially another case of, truth in fiction and showing how it works. And also a gentle reminder that it's probably a good idea to when you get those little weird feelings, those gut instincts, those little nudges to like do something maybe that you wouldn't normally do, potentially a good idea to start listening to them. And I'd seen the movie before, but fantastic movie.
If you were to send back information in time, I think it would look like binary. It would look like binary.
Right.
Because if you were able to take photons and sort of, flip them from, these particles, flip them from positive to negative, over an infinite distance, because they're entangled on a quantum level, they would instantly flip on the other side of that. But not only through distance, but through time, because it's quantum and time, these things aren't beholden to time or space. So you could essentially, and maybe I'm talking out of my ass here, but I feel like you could
go on, Chris, cook,
sort of suspend these quantum bits or whatever,
right?
Get it,
in one orientation in space and time at this very place, wait a bunch of years, and they'll be there for you when you get to over there.
At this point in time.
Yeah, at this point in space and time. And then you can just manipulate them, and they would automatically change them back then too, because they're entangled.
Right.
And so you'd be essentially able to communicate through time using like photonic, communication in a way.
Photons are very impressive. And yes, the way they operate is quite fascinating. However, with lasers and things such as that, photons do dissipate over vast distances. So I mean, like when we're studying solar systems and stars, the further the star is away from us, the dimmer the light is, and sometimes you can't see it with the naked eye. You have to use sensors and many different things to be able to draw. Or to be able to pick up that light, but that light dissipates over time. The photons dissipate, but they also have the ability to move around and go through things. So, I don't think we fully understand photons very well, and I think we probably should, look into that further. But there is some. I see some benefits by there.
Yeah, and it would make sense with the sort of future human hypothesis, at least.
Right.
When you look at Jim Penniston or you look at a case like yours, where information needs to be given to you, and the only way to do that in a coherent manner, maybe using these binary impressions or whatever that are kind of like quantumly suspended in space time and just being like, here, I don't know, maybe that's all science fiction, but here we are.
No,
and
Chris was cooking there. He was cooking and he bailed. I liked it though. I liked where he was going with that. Let's catch up on a couple of super chats here. Stevie, celebrating 4 months, says Polarity is my favorite escape. I'm grateful. Thank you, Josh. Stevie, I'm grateful to have you here, brother. Thank you very much for the 4 months. I appreciate you. Crazy King with $20 says, Una más cerveza, por favor. Gracias. Thank you very much, sir. Happily joining my fellow weirdos family. Thank you, Josh and fam, for opening the vial of truth for truth seekers. The vial for truth seekers. My pleasure, man. Thank you very much. And thank you for being here as well. Beth Noyes says, Laura Eisenhower said that the treaty really happened, but her great-grandpa got lied to by MJ-12. That's what I find so fascinating about the Eisenhower story, is that his great-granddaughter is a huge advocate for the fact that he actually did meet with an extraterrestrial species and that these things really did happen and that there has been a secret space program. Like, that's his direct blood relative is out there yelling, it's true, and no one's listening to her. It's crazy. And just quickly on the whole secret space program thing, like, to me, as crazy as it sounds, I just think it's so obvious that there is a secret space program. Like, to what capacity and to what end and what they're doing, I mean, we could only speculate, right? But the fact that, like, we apparently went to the moon in the 60s, which, I kind of do think maybe we did go to the moon, but just the footage is fake, which is what I've always felt my whole life. That footage is 100% fake. Like, there's just fucking no doubt about that. But I do think maybe we did go. I don't know. Maybe we went with reverse engineered technology. Maybe we went in a flux liner. Who knows? But the fact that, like, we apparently had all this interest in space and now no one cares about space other than just, like, putting things into orbit, I don't know. I think it's just like the fact that we apparently were doing remote viewing studies in the 70s, realized it worked, and then decided to go, I don't think we'll study this anymore. What's that? We just figured out people are psychic and can remotely review locations all over the world. Nah, not really interested in that anymore. We'll go do something else. I don't think so. Emily Hitt, celebrating 7 months, says, so Disclosure movie will be a kick in the pants for humans to get on board with progression to higher thought. Happy holidays, weirdos. Stay safe. It sort of seems that way. I think so. I think it is going to be a disclosure about humans perhaps having some kind of connection to something non-physical. I don't even know if we'll see a UFO in that movie. This is just my thoughts and predictions. I have no inside info and I could be completely wrong. But I feel like it's going to be more of a movie that's like more on the woo-woo side of things, which I'm all for, rather than like a nuts and bolts, close encounters of the third kind type movie. Rain says, our baseline as humans is a beautiful reality. No matter how dark reality can get, the problem is the 1% of humans who are obsessed with how the 99% of us think. Yeah, I agree with you, bro. I agree with you. And that's what I mean. It's a war. There's an information war, and your mind is the target. 100%. Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate all your support. Scout says, hi, Josh. Thanks for the hours of entertainment. My pleasure, bro. Thank you for your support. Chimera says, Josh, is there any way to call in and talk? Not really. I don't really do like a call-in show or anything like that, at least not at this stage. Rock Doc says, the Greys could be assisting with the transmission of information from the future, not that the future humans are physically here. Possibly. The fact that they could be future versions of us, biological AI robots designed to interact with us and interface with us, who knows? I'm open to it, but I really have no clue. We have one more clip, and it's only a short one, and I just wanted to include this because Chris kind of talks about Project Looking Glass, which is something we've been covering recently with the whistleblower Bill Wood. And we're actually going to do another watch of one of his testimony videos where he's kind of like on the run, which is really interesting. We're probably going to do that in the next few days. But let's listen to what Chris has to say about Project Looking Glass and gifts that have been given to humanity and potentially not used for what they were intended for.
It then goes on to rebuild temple for all, return our gifts. That's another scary one.
What gifts? And so I don't know about that one at all. I mean, I couldn't think of anything. Return our gifts.
So
would this be like
reprisal, recoveries, definitely.
But if they were crashed,
well, not always.
Are they gifts?
I don't think they all crashed. No.
Do you think they were just here's something that works? Play with it.
According to other whistleblowers, I think David Grushin mentioned this too, that there are some that are considered to be, or at least looked at as donations.
Donations for experiments?
For whatever. They were left there intact with nothing on board type, and here you go.
Oh, wow.
Okay. In these sort of giving fields.
Okay.
And they were just kind of on these ranges or whatever it is. They were kind of just dropped there and like, here you go. But
that would just be like a gift of a vehicle in my perspective of things. Here's an object. Is this object a gift? Or what do we consider gifts? Gifts are given with emotion. Gifts are given with intent. And gifts are given with meaning behind them. So I'm one that, like I said, thinks outside of the box a lot on a lot of different things. So I interpret a gift as something that could be used for knowledge, something that could be used to answer questions, something that could be used more or less per se with emotions and helping in some fashion. So what was this gift?
Looking glass.
Because I'm not thinking it was a UAP that was left behind as a gift. I'm thinking it was something more
tech, some type of instrument.
I get feeling and emotion and I get more out of it than that. You know what I mean?
So there is talk that Eisenhower and the Majestic were given a tool, which is this looking glass.
By the way, does anyone know where this story originates from? Like what Chris is sort of about to tell us here. What's the source of this? Not that I'm questioning like Chris and what he's saying, but like I'm just curious, where did this come from? This idea that Eisenhower and this era were given a looking glass or something like that. Because I want to know more about this topic.
This crystal that was known as like the Yellow Book, or there's all types of different names for it.
So a book. Book of knowledge.
Yes, but essentially it was like a hologram that you could peer into different timelines.
All right, like a magic 8-ball.
Yes, exactly like a magic 8-ball, but that had like all
far
these
more detail.
Yes, and that was the way that I understood it. And again, this is all just lore. I don't know if any of this is accurate, but the way that I understood it is it was given to them with the intent to disseminate that to the world.
Okay.
Use this as a tool to evolve.
Right.
And they chose to keep it for themselves and to use it for their own personal gain and militarization.
Okay. I can see
and controlling the narrative through the military-industrial complex. And that ticked them off. And they were like, that's not why we gave it to you. You promised us that you would do it this way, and you didn't.
You're not using it for its intended purposes.
So I see return our gifts as being like, hey,
either
play nice or give it back.
Play nice or give it back.
Yeah.
Give back our toy.
Exactly.
Right.
Interesting, right? So apparently we were given a looking glass that could help us determine the outcome of future events, and which would then help us kind of make smarter decisions as a civilization on, how to progress safely and evolve coherently. But apparently the military-industrial complex kept it for themselves and have kind of used it to sort of just progress their own endeavors that don't necessarily benefit humanity as a whole. And people are saying in the chat that this story really comes from Dan Borish, which is awesome to hear, because I know that there is a whole treasure trove of Dan Borish content for us to look at and get into. We've covered what I feel like was his sort of main interview and most well-known interview on the channel in a 2-part series, maybe like a month ago. But I really want to dig into the rest of it because I know there is so much there, and I am specifically very interested in this looking glass stuff because I just find that fascinating. But what I think we'll do is we'll finish off the Bill Wood stuff first, because there's not as much of that, and then we will jump back to Dan Borish and start digging into that. But that is that is the end of the clips. Guys, like I said, if you found this interesting, this comes like we've looked at about half an hour's worth of clips. This is a 4-hour podcast, and there's so many more stories that you don't even know about if you've only watched these clips. Like, there's so much here. So I highly recommend. It's linked down in the description below. Go and check it out. And if you've enjoyed this video, please slap a like on it. Let me know, and we can do what I'm glad. I don't know if someone intentionally did this, but someone just mentioned Suki in the chat, which perfectly timed to remind me that we were going to get a little Suki update for the live stream, because I got sent a bunch of clips and pictures yesterday. Okay, hopefully these work. I'm just going to pull them in, and hopefully you guys can hear them and see them. Suki loves cows. And where she's staying, there's so many cows. Oh, let's play that again. What else we got? She's so cute. I love the way she trots. She does like a little trot when she's happy. Look at the way she trots at the end here. Like this. God damn, I miss her. Big stretch. If you see your dog doing this and you don't say big stretch, you're basically betraying them. Okay? Just want everyone to know that. If you see your dog doing this and you don't say big stretch, your dog feels like you don't love them. Okay? So make sure when you see your dog doing this, you say big stretch. Otherwise, they're going to feel like you don't love them. What else do we have here? Is this one? Oh, that was a quick one. There is one of her with a really big stick. Is it this one? Nope. Here we go. She got a good growl on her. You don't want to mess with her when she's got a stick. You don't fuck with her stick. She swings it around like Yoshimitsu. Yeah. Tell her. Tell him.
What?
That's my girl. Don't mess with her stick. She'll let you know. I think that's pretty much it. Actually, I think we got one more photo here of just Suki hanging by the pool, you know? She's just hanging by her pool. Loving life. I love it. I appreciate the update. Thank you very much. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. It is nice to see that she's just living it up and enjoying her time over there. Crazy King says your memory and the ability to correlate those with new info is crazy. Can you pass on your secret? The secret, it might be ADHD, sir. Let me be real with you. It's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing and a curse because I can remember these wild, obscure facts about UFOs and the history of it. But I will wake up one morning and be like, oh, I'm going to go down to the cafe and maybe work on a video. And I'll get to the cafe and realize I didn't bring my laptop or my AirPods or anything like that. So there you go. It's not always a great thing, but it can be. It definitely can be. Rain says, if time travel exists 1 million years from now, then it exists now. Fact. Yep, you're exactly right, bro. It only takes time travel to be invented at any point in time, and now it is invented for all of time. Hard to wrap your head around, but true. Toxic Fart says aliens land in UFO, goes to pee, human finds UFO, look, a donation, alien comes back, UFO is gone. I like it. I wonder if that's how it happened. Beth Noyes says the book A Stranger in the Pentagon also. Thank you very much, Beth. And Nicole with celebrating 11 months. My word, I need to upload the 12-month badge. It's still redacted. It's been redacted this entire time.
Redacted.
Yep. But we're going to have to get it up. You guys are finally going to see it. She says, love our weirdo community and so happy to see a Suki update. She is a beautiful girl. Thank you very much, Nicole. And she is the best girl. I really do miss her a lot. And Larissa gifted 5 memberships. Larissa, nice to see you here. Thank you very much. And let's get some love in the chat for Larissa and the 5 new weirdos. Guys, if you did just join as a member, you have access to members-only content, members-only live streams, which I may do one tonight as well. We might hang out in the members section, maybe play a little bit of GeoGuessr. We'll see. That might be happening tonight. And you also get access to the members section of our Discord, which is just a really fun place with cool people to hang out and talk about all of this craziness. But Discord is free for everyone as well. So you can just come in and hang out. You don't have to be a member there. There's all kinds of channels and discussion threads that you can jump into. So guys, thank you again. I hope you enjoyed the show today. Again, please slap a like on the video. Go over to Chris's channel. Show him some love as well. And I will see you guys in the next one. So keep being good to each other. Be kind. Make sure you get outside every day. Touch some grass. Go and enjoy the 20% off discount code on the merch store, which is www.polarity-store.com. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.